Michael Keaton is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Despite having not played the character in 36 years and being 36 years older, he still has the chaotic energy and zeal for this role that he did in the original. You know, the years might have changed everyone else, but it hasn't changed Beetlejuice in the slightest, at least in terms of his personality and behavior. He's everything you want him to be in this sequel. He's crude, he's rude, he's hilarious. You know, always at an 11 and always trying to find a way to get what he wants. And he even adds a few new tricks to his arsenal and even has employees in the movie. Let's go ahead and move on to my review for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. It's showtime. 36 years after the release of Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, we finally have the long-awaited sequel. A sequel that has been in some form of development or development hell for the last 3 decades. And though, you know, he hasn't gone Hawaiian, like one of the possible sequels that was thrown around back in the day, Beetlejuice has returned to cause mischief and mayhem in Beetlejuice years later. You know, a very clever title, by the way. You dare not say it a third time. If they do eventually make a third movie, they got to just call it Beetlejuice. They have to do that. Now, you know, when it comes to the original Beetlejuice, I am a fan of that film, and I consider it to be one of Tim Burton's best movies. And I certainly have an even greater appreciation for it after watching it again during our latest, Discord watch parties, which are an absolute blast, by the way. And I really encourage like anyone watching this later on to stop by for those movie watch parties. And I always appreciate some feedback for those and suggestions. We just have such a great time. But when it comes to the original film, I think it's a really fun supernatural horror comedy. The best of Burton's aesthetics and sensibilities are on full display. You know, it's when it felt really fresh. It has a great score by Danny Elfman, a wonderful supporting cast and performances by Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis and Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Jeffrey Jones. I mean, just everyone across the board, and of course, Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Yeah, Beetlejuice is simply an iconic character. Yes, he has under 20 minutes of screen time in that movie, but Michael Keaton, he makes every minute worth it in that movie. He is at a constant 11 in that film, and he is crude, he's rude, and constantly politically incorrect, and I and everyone else just love him for it. Beetlejuice is a great character, much like his movie. Additionally, I just want to give a shout out to the very underrated animated Beetlejuice series that came out in 1989, lasted a number of seasons. A slightly more wholesome take on the character, where he's, very much Lydia's friend, instead of her being his child bride, which I think that was appropriate change. That was an appropriate change for the animated show. But he's still kind of crude. He's still kind of rude. He's still very mischievous. A very fun show from what I remember, though it has been quite some time. And lastly, I also like what I've seen of that Beetlejuice musical with Alex Brightman starring as the character, and I, from what I've seen, and like there's this wonderful fan animated thing where they actually took his sing and part of his performance and animated it. I thought that was great. He just absolutely knocked it out of the park with his take on Beetlejuice. And really I'm just saying all this to say that I am a Beetlejuice fan. And despite the fact that this movie was in development hell for so long, I was really looking forward to it. I mean, Michael Keaton seemed just really jazzed and excited to talk about, and he's typically a pretty laid-back kind of guy, He's a very common sense approach to a lot of things. He doesn't get over-exaggerated. He doesn't feel like he never feels the need to try to oversell something. He's plus being older, he just seems very earnest and honest about his thoughts on various projects. He doesn't mind to speak his mind. And to hear him just so happy about this film and talking about his love for this character, I was like, oh shit! Like, I believed him. I absolutely believed him. And then you have like the Tim Burton of it all. It's like, even with the mediocrity that has been Tim Burton's career for the last, 20 or so years, aside from Sweeney Todd, and which was the last movie of his that I really loved, and Big Eyes, which I thought was okay. A lot of people do like Big Eyes. I thought it was fine. But even with that, even with the idea that Tim Burton has not been firing all cylinders for probably nearly 2 decades and has been making a lot of crap, a lot of slop, in my opinion. But all that aside, how is the movie? Well, this might disappoint some people to hear this, but Beetlejuice is not better or as good as Beetlejuice. At this point, I feel like I've summoned him 5 times just in this review alone. But despite it not being as good as the first movie, that's not to say it's not a good film. I actually think the film is very good and easily Tim Burton's best movie in nearly 20 years. I think it's his best since Sweeney Todd, which is a movie I really love. It just has a few issues. That's what it is. But I want to talk about the story and the positives first. The film takes place 36 years after the original, and the estranged Deetz family reunite for the funeral service of Charles Deetz. But when Lydia's teenage daughter gets into some possible trouble, she's forced to summon the demon poltergeist Beetlejuice for help. But inevitably, this causes many problems along the way. At the top, Michael Keaton is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Despite having not played the character in 36 years and being 36 years older, he still has the chaotic energy and zeal for this role that he did in the original. The years might have changed everyone else, but it hasn't changed Beetlejuice in the slightest, at least in terms of his personality and behavior. He's everything you want him to be in the sequel. He's crude, he's rude, he's hilarious. Always at an 11 and always trying to find a way to get what he wants. And he even adds a few new tricks to his arsenal and even has employees in the movie. We also learn more about his past from centuries ago, and that in turn sets up some other characters, another character who I'll get to in just a bit. But it just gives us the impression that Beetlejuice was as much of a scumbag in life as he is in death. It's an incredibly fun performance across the board, and he's my favorite, my absolute favorite aspect of this movie. Now, when it comes to the rest of the cast, it's more of a mixed bag, and it's not that like anyone is giving a bad performance in this film. Like, everyone I think is doing a good job for what they're given. It's just that this movie has a lot of characters, and it doesn't seem to know what to do with some of them, which makes them just feel sort of superfluous to the most important aspects of the movie, the most important plots and subplots of the film. Other than Michael Keaton, there are definitely several performances that do stand out to me, including Winona Ryder as Lydia Deetz. She's great. Jenna Ortega as Astrid Deetz, and Catherine O'Hara as Delia Deetz. Pretty much the Deetz family as a whole, they're all just very good across the board, and I like what they do with them. Like Winona Ryder as Lydia Deetz, of course she was the young girl that we followed in the original movie, so unlike, her very odd parents. This is her 36, years later, and a lot has happened, to her. You feel the wear and tear, not physically on her, but just on her psyche, her personality, her emotions. She's the hostess of this new show called Ghost House, which she's actually been doing it for years, and it's how she's made her living, how she's become famous. She's communing with the dead, but that has caused a lot of issues in her personal life with her immediate family, especially her daughter. Again, played by Jenna Ortega, and her, her husband, who I don't want to go into too much detail on, since I want to save that for people who want to watch the movie. But she's coming from a broken family, perhaps even more broken than it was in the original film. But I really liked what they end up doing with this character, and how they show that she's suffered, and how that suffering has affected a lot of her relationships. But believe me, they're still doing some great comedic things with her in the movie, and her and Jenna Ortega, I think, have wonderful chemistry. But I like that it's just not all, sunshine and roses for Lydia and the Deetz family, all these years later. It's like, oh, things, you obviously get the sense that a lot has happened, a lot has transpired, and they show that, and they wear that very well throughout the movie. Justin Theroux's in the movie, and the reason why I say it that way is this is a crazy aside. I'm not too familiar with Justin Theroux as an actor. At least a few years ago, I wasn't really familiar with him. I remember that he's briefly in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I used to work for a website called oneofus.net, and I remember watching that movie and being like, okay, when are they supposed to find this character? Everyone's like, it's Justin Theroux. I'm like, who the fuck is Justin Theroux? He's this, this incredibly well-recognized and a world-famous actor. And he turned out to kind of be a bit character that has nothing to do with anything in that film. I just, every time I think of Justin Theroux, I just remember, in that review, and people talk about him going, Justin Theroux! It's I don't think it's a big deal. But okay, Justin Theroux. Justin Theroux is also in the movie, and he plays Lydia's producer, agent, and kind of scummy boyfriend. He's one of the many side characters who's introduced in this film, and I think he's fine for what he's given. But he's the great Justin Theroux, as we all know. Jenna Ortega, like she is in most things, is great. I love that she has this very tumultuous, relationship with her mother. So much of their story in the film is kind of the heart of the movie, whereas, and I'll touch on this again. So much of the original film, the heart of that movie, it's you had Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice and stuff, you had everything with the weird family, the Deetz family in general, but the heart of that movie was with Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis and the relationship with Lydia, and even though those characters aren't in the film, which I'll get to in just a bit and how they handle that, I like that this movie did have that heart between Jenna Ortega, obviously Winona Ryder, and additionally Catherine O'Hara as Delia Deetz. Who is funny enough, I always thought she's the blood related to Lydia. She's not. She's the stepmother, and obviously the step grandmother of Jenna Ortega's Astrid. And she gets a little more to do in this movie than I thought she would, and she's great. She has a lot of great little comedic moments in the film as well, and a lot of what happens with Catherine O'Hara's Delia is tied to Charles Deetz, who is dead in the movie. And of course, Jeffrey Jones does not return as Charles for certain reasons, obvious reasons that some might know about. But what they end up doing with Charles, other than, him being dead, is very amusing to me. And they get a great gag that ties up him and Delia's story very well, in my opinion. And I don't exactly want to say what happens with his character or the circumstances of his death and what maybe his greater role is in the movie, but I thought it was very, very clever. And I was like, oh, that's pretty great. And also it kind of gets around the whole Jeffrey Jones of it all, too. Now, as I said before, all the characters, all the people that works very well in the movie, I think they're great. And of course, all being led by Michael Keaton, who is delivering a stellar performance in this film. The problem is that this movie has way too many characters and subplots going on. You have Willem Dafoe, which again, you guys know, and I say this with a heavy heart. I am a huge Willem Dafoe fan. She had hard York, and, in the lighthouse, and misery, misery, misery. That's what you chose. And he's the Green Goblin Spider-Man. I love him. And he plays a character named Wolf Jackson in this. He's like a ghost detective who in a former life, when he was alive, was like a B-movie like action star. And he's trying to find Beetlejuice. And honestly, he's fine. He's doing a good enough job. But you can completely cut out his character and his story and you wouldn't miss it. It's like not necessary for the movie at all. And he also connects to a character which I know a lot of people were excited for, which is Monica Bellucci. As Dolores, who is Beetlejuice's, ex-wife, who in life was this, as Beetlejuice described her, a mysterious woman who was also a soul-sucking witch, and she is literally a soul-sucking witch. And they go into her relationship in Beetlejuice and what happened with that and why she wants vengeance on him and everything. And you're like, oh, that's going to be kind of a cool story. And it's, it's there. It happens. It pops up its head occasionally. And it's kind of cool to know some of the context of okay, Beetlejuice's origin and how he somewhat came to be and everything. But again, it's one of those things where you can remove it completely from the movie and you wouldn't miss it. As a matter of fact, if you remove the Willem Dafoe of it all, the Monica Bellucci of it all, maybe some other characters in it, and there's a lot of fucking characters I haven't even mentioned. There's a boyfriend thing. It's just a lot of this crazy stuff in motion that's connected to Jenna Ortega's Astrid, where it's just that's kind of, all right, we're done with that. And it's the same for these things. A lot of these storylines of these characters are just kind of thrown away at the end or just dealt with in my opinion, a very unsatisfying fashion. And this is more of a personal thing for me. The explanation for the absence of the Maitlands, Alec Baldwin and Geena Davis's characters from the original film, who are mentioned in the film, and were pretty much the loving parents that Lydia needed. Personally, I found it a bit unsatisfying and kind of hand-wavy. And again, as I said before, they do that with several other plot lines in the film. They just kind of ignore them. Or they do away with them in such a way where it's it's that happened and now they're gone. I'm just I kind of wanted a more personal, intimate thing. It just felt oh yeah, we got to explain why these people are gone. Let's just say this is what they found, this is what happened to them. Just I need something better than that, personally. And something that, I don't know, it kind of ties the heart of this movie to the original film. It would have been better that way. I just felt Burton clearly wasn't interested in that. And he's all right, let's get rid of this. We're just going to throw the line here and then move on. But outside of that, those who were concerned in terms of the aesthetics, that this movie was going to be just a CGI fest, like a lot of recent Burton movies. And CGI was just going to replace all the special effects and practical effects and costumes and makeup and stop motion effects, claymation. Rest assured that all of those things are back and they all look great. The asymmetrical, gothic, and macabre whimsy of Burton is back, and he adheres to his best aesthetic sensibilities that were, again, so fresh and fun in his prime. They use some CGI and it's to clean some things up, but a lot of the things that people loved about the previous Beetlejuice, like the aesthetics of it, that does return in glorious fashion, and I think it's done very well. Additionally, much like the original movie, it's also fairly well paced. And even with some of the extraneous supporting characters and subplots, it pretty much never stops moving as it revs up and it plays out. But again, I think that the movie does more right than wrong and is bolstered by clearly a bit of a rejuvenated Tim Burton, where I do see his passion for filmmaking. It doesn't feel as workmanlike or as tired or as annoying as some of his previous films of the last 15, 20 years. And Michael Keaton is delivering such an exciting and fun performance as Beetlejuice. He was right. I understood why he was so excited, because he is putting himself all out there for everybody, and it works completely, 100%. And I think, of some of the returning characters and some of the new additions to the cast, I think they do a great job. I like Winona Ryder in here. I like what they do with Lydia and what she's gone through. Catherine O'Hara gets some fun stuff to do. Her connection to Charles is hilarious to me. And Jenna Ortega continues to prove that she is, one of the best young stars working today. And I can totally understand why, after her success in Wednesday, why Tim Burton wants her in this. She can vibe with Burton. She just has that look to her. But yeah, aside from some extraneous characters and some of the hand-wavy stuff, like I think the one thing I wish is you had another co-writer in here to kind of eliminate some of these unnecessary side characters, don't really add anything to this story, and maybe do a better job of tying some of the more wholesome elements from the last film into this one. And maybe I'm like in the small minority that like really vibed and really enjoyed the Mattindales and Alec Baldwin and Gene Davis's characters. But the way in which they kind of just brushed them away was, I don't know, that didn't really sit well with me all that much. But despite that, I feel like the majority of this movie works. There's a lot of fun to be had. And if you are an old school Burton fan, I think for the most part, this returns to the best aspects of his filmmaking. But what about you guys? Those of you who have seen the film, did you love it? Did you like it? Were you more mixed on it? Or did you downright hate it? You thinking like, what are you talking about, Chris? This ain't a return to form. This is just more of the same Burton bullshit we've been getting it for 20 years. Or are you saying like, no, this is actually one of his better movies? Let me know. But what about you guys? I'm actually very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
5 minutes later.
What about you, chat? Katria on hands, 12 months to subscribe, a full year of incredible support. Thank you. Katria is making chicken enchiladas. I'm very excited to taste them. Can't wait. Let me see you guys are saying right here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Beetlejuice back to formula? Keep it real, Wolf Jackson. 2 characters in this are entirely useless. Yeah. There's a shit ton of other characters I can go into. Why is Jerry Jones not in this movie? I thought it already had most. You did there. Well, his character is in it. That's all I'll say. I love what they end up doing with Charles, but I don't want to describe exactly what happens to him. It's very amusing. Homer says that's too bad. They totally hand-waved the Maitlands. They didn't even try to explain it. It's just, I don't think this is a spoiler. I'll just say this, because the Maitlands don't really play a role in this movie at all, and I felt like, I'm not saying that they needed to, but I feel like there should have been some sort of callback that made sense, and Lydia could have talked about them, I think, in a better way. Like, they literally say, because they bring up, what was it called? The book of the recently deceased enough that has all the rules and regulations, right? That pops up again in this movie quite often. And because originally the Maitlands they had to stay in the house for what was like, it's almost like a jail term, like 125 years or something. They kind of like waved that away by saying like, they found a loophole. They found a loophole and they got to leave. And I'm like, huh? That's it? That's all we're going to get? They found a loophole. I was like, come on, man. And that felt like just Burton, like, I don't want to deal with this. Just put that in the script. We'll say it. I'm like, come on. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. That they could have done more of that. So hopefully that's not really a spoiler for you guys. But just, you know what? It's to cushion the blow. It's to cushion the blow. Let me see. The Maitlands being there and how they handled it, not being there and how they handled it was bad. What was said after that exposition happened was insulting, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I fell asleep for the first half of the movie. Damn, but the second half of the film I thought was better, in my opinion, says Stuatol. And they just gave an actual explanation when they get fight. Yeah, they just don't provide like, okay, what do you mean? Yeah. I feel like the writers had 2 ideas of the plot of the movie and couldn't pick one, so they said, fuck it. Well, that's the other part of it. This, I should have said this during the full review. It felt like Burton said, okay, this is going to be my last time ever dealing with like these characters in this world and in Beetlejuice at all, so I'm going to put everything into this movie. And the thing is, it's like, if you have all these other ideas, then maybe you should save them for a third film. And you can make this one tighter and better. And again, I'm saying I actually really like the movie. I think it's a very good movie. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's as great as the original one. But it's just like, God damn it, I I wish you just didn't cram so much into one film because it's not necessary, you know? Let's see. I felt like the writers had two ideas to plot the movie and couldn't pick one, so they said, fuck it, cram both ideas together. Yep. Tujel says that it was okay. It wasn't as good as the first film. Yeah, we're pretty much all on the same page based on what you guys are saying. Yeah. Malin's found a loophole. Okay, movie expand. Wait, come back here. Wait, what happened? Like, they found a loophole. No explanation of what that loophole is. That book fucking sucks. So, yeah, that's the thing about it. You know, I can understand you don't want to. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about it. You got to think of it this way. It's like they would have had to have also like brought back like those, you know, Alec Baldwin, and Gina Davis, and it would have been even bigger and things. But I'll tell you this much: I would have preferred having them back than having the Monica Bellucci and I can't believe I'm saying this, than Willem Dafoe, who really they're not necessary to the plot in general. So Elba was kind of available. Yeah, no, that's true. Well, yes, I know about that. Yeah, I know. He has some issues going on, no doubt, but yeah. Biggie Smith says, think I'll watch when it comes out on stream. Yeah, it might be the best. Yeah, it's still fun. It was also a good time watching this with a bunch of Beetlejuice fans. And the thing is, thankfully they weren't obnoxious like Ghostbusters fans. Not saying all Ghostbusters fans are obnoxious, but I had a pretty bad experience watching Ghostbusters Frozen Empire earlier this year because it just had to deal with some really obnoxious fans that made that movie even worse. But there were Beetlejuice fans in the audience, but they weren't like fucking clapping every time there was a goddamn reference, or as soon as like Michael Keaton showed up. It was like, you know, it felt very natural. They had common sense, which was nice. Not all Ghostbusters fans suck. I know. That's why I preface it by saying, although it's not all fans. Yeah, they weren't doing the woo, yeah, proton packs. Oh, God, it's Bill Murray. Everything he says is amazing. Something like that. I have a simple question. Establish that once ghosts settle their unfinished business, they move on, and their raising Lydia was their unfinished business, problem solved. That's the thing I thought they were going to do. I thought it's set up so obviously, right? I 100% agree with you, Deadpool. Like, that to me would have been a fantastic explanation. And then you could have really had, like, Winona Ryder. Like, I think it would have been really cool if she went into, like, they were basically my parents. You know? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I had my dad and my stepmom and all that. But, like, they were my parents. And they raised me. And I tried to live by their example. And there's just... Yeah, that would have been better. Yeah, they did the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Yeah, they were subtle about it. That would have been great. It expands the lore. I think that would have been cool. It's like, oh, there's a caveat. If you do this thing, it's kind of if you do a really good deed, you help a living person out and you help them excel and do all this and feel loved, then yeah, you get to pass on. You get to go to heaven and all that shit. I think that would have been better. I agree with you, Deadpool. That would have made, and it's so easy. Even if maybe they don't go as full into what we just did, just based on what you just wrote right there, would have been perfect. Been like, that's nice. I like that. But they don't. They just find, hey, I found a loophole. What was a loophole? I don't know. Okay. Oh man. I'm not having to go over the first one. Having an actual appearance seems like a missed up. Well, again, it's made complicated by some certain things happening in real life. However, I felt like, as Deadpool described, that would have been a better explanation. The first movie is established that the Maitlands were a loving couple who couldn't have kids. Yeah, and then they had a child through Lydia and were able to raise her to be a good person, a great woman. I think that would have been nice. I agree with you. But again, other than that, I still feel like there's a lot of great stuff about the movie. With again, Michael Keaton is really good. I think several of the characters, they do a lot of great things with them. Wonderful aesthetic throughout. But yeah, it just has this extraneous stuff that you can get. Let's do away with this. Monica Bellucci's in the movie because Tim Burton's fucking her. Let's also say it. Let's just all say it. Yeah, let's get to the meat of it. All right, that's why she's in the movie. Okay, I didn't want that to be that guy, but Tim Burton is stupping Monica Bellucci, and he could stup her, and he could put her in his movies. But that's the reason why she's there. Yeah, the couple and the writer are the heart of the first film. Oh, that's as I said in my review, 100%. There's an appearance of someone in this that I thought was a nice touch. Nothing too big, but fun nonetheless. There's so many, like, I'm trying to think of the exact one you're referring to, Bishop. Burton does have a fetish for his leads banging his wives. It's 100%. It's on full. It has to be it. He's a cuck. He's a cuck. It's true. It's stub casting. That too. God, it's so weird that's like his thing. But fair enough. Everyone's got their kinks. Everyone's got their things that they're into, Chad. You know, I'm not shaming anybody, but it's weird with him. It's weird because it's one you don't see about. Burns a cut. Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I'm not being mean about it, but I think like he's into that. I think it's not even like fuck him, he's a cuck. No, I think literally that's like what he's clearly into. You know. So there you go. My review for Beetlejuice. Hope you enjoy it.